Welcome to Coach SG and Friends, where we discuss topics that help you have a better relationship with yourself and others. I am Coach SG, otherwise known as your joyful friend. I'm a relationship coach and life mentor, an entrepreneur and speaker. I'm based out of Los Angeles, but originally from Brooklyn, New York. I love great music, deep conversations, and inspiring people to live their best emotional lives and create their most amazing love story. Let me introduce you to my two friends, Janessa Rose and Lisa Miranda. Janessa is the CEO of Motivational Monsters, a nonprofit that helps people activate mental health and emotional well-being through creative arts. She is the author of How to Stop Being an Effing Bum. BUM stands for Broken Urban Mentality. She's been dubbed the Tony Robbins / Cardi B of motivational speakers, and she calls herself the Galactic Goddess. Lisa Miranda is an actor and creative director. She's also dabbling in producing. She is based in Miami, New York, and Paris. She is a world traveler who speaks several languages, who loves life, good people, and good conversation. So we want to welcome you to our podcast. Let's get started.
Welcome back, ladies. Welcome back. It feels like it's been forever and it's only been a few days. But so today we're going to talk about what does a slew of bad relationships mean? As we're working on ourselves and trying to manifest our best life, one of the things that, relationships matter. And so if you have unhealthy relationships around you, more than likely it's going to affect you in a negative way. So just want to open up this topic. So what does a slew of bad relationships mean?
It means my life. Oh God, no, I've had a slew of bad relationships. I mean, a slew of bad relationships is just a consecutive amount of connections that did not work out in the way you would hope that they would. Doesn't necessarily mean that they were bad. We as a culture, I mean, as people, as human, we believe if it doesn't feel good, it's bad for us. And that's not always the truth. If we understood that, we'd be able to navigate through life a lot smarter, I guess I want to say. But it's really just experiencing consecutive disappointments, unhappy moments, toxic experiences, things that just don't feel right or good. Getting probably the lesser end of the stick and connections. But it also means a lot about you. It means that you are not aware about certain things. You're not awakened to certain things. You're definitely not awakened to boundaries or being aware of your decision and selection making process, the type of people you're connecting with. There's a lot of those things that are untold. When you have a slew of bad relationships, you're not yet emotionally mature to notice the things that you don't want and the things you do want. This is why you are still in these consecutive patterns. Otherwise, it would have just been one or two bad relationships, not a slew. A slew means you are a serial dater. maybe not in that thing, but it does have the sense of some serial, consecutive, non-awareing. You're doing the same thing over with different people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll add to that it's like not feeling understood or valued or loved or worthy, and not having the clarity on how to get new results with those people or new people.
That was graceful.
I love it. For me, I would say, just like Janessa was mentioning, I feel like relationships teach you so much about yourself. And so there's a lot of lessons to be learned, I think. And, I think perception matters, the way we look at the relationship. I think just saying I have a slew of bad relationships, I think that's a poor perception to look at it. It could be just, things don't feel good when you interact with other people. So if things don't feel good when you interact with other people, the only person you can change is yourself. So it may mean that it could mean a slew of things. It could mean that, you have a self-love issue. It could mean that you, have hard time with, creating boundaries for yourself. It could be that you just have a hard time connecting with people. It could be just like you're complacent, like this is just how it's going to be. These are just how relationships are, and that's kind of where you leave it at. Or it could be an awareness issue. I think sometimes we don't even know that we're having, maybe a difficult relationship until time changes because we have different needs. Maybe, at one time, however the relationship was, it was good. And now that you're growing and you want more out of it, you want to connect at a deeper level. Now you start to look around going like, yeah, I'm not sure I want to have these kind of relationships around me. So there's many reasons of why it could be the way it is, but the only way that you can find it is by looking inward.
Yo, Sherelle, that was so dope what you just said. I gotta give you a clap for that because no, really, because that is so key. Like, like we'll be in a relationship with John Doe or Jane Doe, and it'll be one issue. And then all of a sudden we split, and then we're like, all right, you know what? I'll take a minute, and then we grow in some way, right? But there's no mindfulness. This is not intentional. This is just evolution by default, right? And we'll get into a new relationship with Ben Doe or Brittany Doe or whatever, right? And then it'd be like all of a sudden we went into that relationship with the mindset from John Doe or Jane Doe. And this is like all of a sudden it's like, yeah, this doesn't work either. So having the concept of a slew of bad relationships is like limiting the lesson. You know what I mean? It kind of blocks you learning, like, no, you're growing and you have to be aware and you have to be mindful. You have to know that what happened in relationship A, now you need something else in relationship B or whatever have you. But I love that. When I hear you say that, it just makes so much sense for my life. But I do practice mindfulness. So I've learned to heal those things. But it's so true for you guys out there that are like maybe saying, oh, every guy is this way or every girl is this way. And you got to be mindful. You got to know self. That's it. We always say that anyway. So self is really how you show up for others.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of times I think what happens is you have the expectation that it's going in this particular way. You build the momentum that way, and then you have, all of this proof, this evidence that this is, similar to your previous relationships. It's similar to what happened last year or to someone else that you know. And then you just kind of get into this cycle of repeating it and anticipating the bad things to happen or feeling unsatisfied or unloved in some way. So I think it takes some work to like pull yourself out of that rhythm, like it's a bad day or it's, it's like a bad moment in your life. And these people showing up are always going to show up with the wrong attitude, or they're not there to help you. They're against you. I know for me, like now I'm really trying to understand that sometimes if I'm interacting with people in a way that I don't like, and I'm doing everything that I can, I'm meditating, I'm listening to positive things, I'm napping, it's not helping, then I should just give it time. Like, I'm like, you know what? That's something this is just residue of a moment that's passed. I don't have to continue. I don't have to get mad again. Or I don't have to cry again or feel like I felt when this happened previously, because now it's different and I'm learning a lesson. Or, you know what? I'm going to hold on tighter to that lesson that I learned and just look forward. But as long as I know that I'm doing the work, that I'm interacting with people on a higher vibration, then now I'm less tripped up about how a continuation of something that didn't feel good is going, because I know it's going to end very soon.
Yeah. And what I would add to that, thank you guys for both your insights. I think it's just showing that every incident is different, right? Every relationship is different, and I think we have different needs and different relationships. And I think what I've been focusing on myself, as I was like focusing on my joy and my freedom and all that, I just decided I just want to have really good connections. I don't want to know how to handle relationships. I want to figure out how to connect better with certain people. There's certain people in my life that, not so much now, but, I have a few people now, maybe a couple of people that, maybe will irritate me more than the average person. That's a good way to say it. But I started to, instead of reacting to that, I started to just become really curious about it. Like, why does this round me up so much? And what is it that they're saying that I get so irritated by, and how can I be compassionate in this instance And I think the biggest thing this is my biggest tool that I've been taking out is when I'm feeling frustrated, I shut up. I just shut up. I just shut up and listen, because I realize that when there's this tug of war thing, I'm fighting about being right. I'm in some fear about something. I want to manage them. I want them to think different. I want them to see my point. And then I have to let go of the resistance, because I'm creating this dynamic with them, and I just have to like let things go for a minute. And I just get quiet until I can get back into a place where I can have a better conversation with them. And that's been working for me.
What you just said about curiosity, that's so interesting, because before I didn't really understand what that meant. Like, get curious about what the other person means, or, what they're trying to say. But like yesterday, someone did something that pissed me off. And then when I was asking someone how to handle it, there's like, well, when you go and you talk to her again, just be like, oh, I didn't understand why X, Y, and Z. And I said, no, but I understood. My problem is not the lack of understanding, but why the hell would she do that? And he was just like, yeah, say I didn't understand because you didn't understand. And I was like, oh, okay, you're right. I didn't understand. But to me, it just feels like, no, if I understand, someone says something shitty to me, I understand, but I guess the intention, getting curious about the intention and switching that language, I guess makes it a healthier conversation and gives the other person an opportunity to, to have a conversation and not be on defense.
I think it's also about like being curious about like what you're drawing from them. You know what I mean? Like, not curious so much about what's happening, the events of it, right? Because, it makes sense. Like, yeah, I don't like people to be rude to me. I don't like people to talk to me crazy. But in that instance, if they are, and, I'm trying to do this, I bring myself back and I just get quiet until I can understand, like, why is what I'm doing activating so much crap out of them, so that I'm mindful about what I'm drawing from them. So whether I'm right or not really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it's about the solution, right? So it's not about, because we have different beliefs, right? So I may not be able to have them see my point, because that's what I used to spend my time with, trying to make people see my point. Like, once you see my point, you'll get it. But and I spend all the energy doing that. And it's like, no, they're a different person. They have different beliefs. I can say my point, but they're not going to get it because they don't feel the way I do. They don't believe the way I do. So I decided to just like listen and go like, okay, so this is hard for them. Maybe I could just be quiet and figure out what else I can do. Sometimes I just change the subject too.
Yeah, no. It's so funny because as I'm listening, I'm like, wow, I've had bad relationships, but my slew of experiences that I felt were bad were more friendships and like business stuff. It's like everybody who came to me like, yo, you want to help me, or yo, you want to add to this, or can you, or this, or whatever. They wind up becoming intimidated by my work ethic or whatever have you. And for a long time, I was the same way, Sherelle. Like, if you would just understand what I'm saying. But then I woke up real quick to that. Once I learned the universal law, learning that I cannot, the first law of physics, I cannot control the energy outside of my vessel. That was it. That was it for me. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm done. I can't control. And then I started to ask myself, I got really interested in, why do you keep on partnering up with people that don't have strong work ethic? And then I realized it's because those people are friends, people I love, people I enjoy spending time with, people I would fantasize about building something with. And I realized that it's not that they're bad people. It's not that they're bad business people. And they might be, but that's not really what was the issue or why we fell out. The issue was that I'm looking to connect with someone that wants that too. And I had to check for that. You need to stop connecting with people based off of friendships, based off of what they have and how they can add to your plan or how you can add to their plan. You really got to build with somebody who wants what you want to. You know what I mean? You have to look for somebody in my business stuff. You have to look for somebody who also wants to build a business with you and values and honors your service and part or whatever it is. And that was the main thing. And a lot of people that I was building with were people who respected me and kind of like was like, you know, they didn't know as much as me. So it was like they were gaining information from me, but they was also intimidated in the sense of, I don't want to do business with you, Janessa, because when we work together, it's not like when we hang out together. Your boss self is different than the Janessa I hang out with and chill with. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't feel good. But I'm not willing to compromise that because this is business and this needs to get done. So you know what I mean? There was things I had to learn, and it wasn't about them. It was always me. I was picking safe partners that I felt comfortable with, that I thought and I knew respected me and knew that I knew more. And so I didn't have, you know what I mean? It wasn't a professional relationship. I was trying to build a professional relationship with personal people, and that wasn't working. And when I realized that, I was like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? It's a me thing.
Well, I love that you shared that. I think, you know, there's a couple ways that you can kind of take that's, you know, kind of from that scenario, is that sometimes our relationship is one way. And so we know how to do this, you know, dance together when we're doing these things. And then once you put us in a different situation, the rules change somehow, right? It's a different environment, it's something new, and people don't know how to deal with that. So, you know, there's two ways to deal with that. It's either dealing with this like, okay, so we need to approach this from a different level, because when our friendship is easy, but now when we're in work, you know, we've got to define some boundaries that maybe we didn't have to have in our friendship. Or it could be, like you said, I got to really be particular about the people that I'm choosing to create with, because I don't want to ruin the friendship, or we're just not a good fit to each other. Like you had mentioned, you're like, I like to take over. I'm like that too. You know, it's just natural. So I have to be mindful sometimes when I'm doing stuff like, oh, this is my project. I'm here. My role is to support. It's not to take over. But I realize that about me, because I realize I'm more of a leader. I like to be in charge. I like to be in the role. So I jump in, and sometimes it's not required.
Right. Me too, sis. Me too, baby girl. Let me tell you, but it's because of these experiences that I've learned to chill with that. You know what I mean? I've learned to be mindful of it, instead of saying, you just get jealous because I know things. Oh, you know what I mean? Or whatever. Oh, they don't want to work with me. Because I used to say things like that. Like, nobody wants to work with me. Nobody likes me. Nobody, you know what I mean? But the truth is, it's not that. The truth is just, it's not my project sometimes, you know what I mean? Or they also, or, you know, because a lot of times it was my project. Certain things were my projects. And then it's like, you don't give nobody creative opportunity. You're like, no, you're here for that. Like, you can't always also ask people to work with you and then limit their ability to work with you. That's another thing that I realized in the past. It hasn't been recent, but
Well, see, here's the thing: is that, and then I'll let you go, Lisa. I feel like sometimes you don't know things are going to bother you until they bother you, right? So say you're working with people, like, you really, you know, for me, I always want to work with people that are, you know, I feel like they really bring something that I don't have, or they're just really good at their craft. Like they're gonna help me level up my game, right? But you don't expect, maybe, if it makes you feel insecure, or now I don't know my footing. You know, I try not to look at it as like they're jealous of my my energy, but I try to think like, okay, maybe they have never had this experience before, where they've had somebody that they really truly love and they love being around, but like they're making them feel insecure, like they're bringing up their own shit, you know, and somebody who's not self-aware, you know, would attack somebody, but sometimes you just don't know what to do with your emotions, and we shouldn't have to do everything perfectly. We just got to learn as it's happening and figure out how to have these conversations. So
with working, I have like the opposite experience, where I keep asking to be involved or pursuing opportunities where I'm learning from people who are a lot more advanced. But I'm not, I guess I've had a lot of unsuccessful instances because of like miscommunication or not having clear boundaries. I actually had something last week where I was working on a project, and I wasn't clear enough I assumed a lot of things. I assumed a lot of things were happening that were not happening. And we were, me and one partner were organizing screenings for a project, and me and the editor are editing. And then turns out when we're all in the room, the editor said, "We're nowhere near done. These screenings can't happen. What are you guys doing?" And we're like, wait, we thought, and even during the editing, ultimately they were my projects. I was letting people like give a lot of feedback that was not really necessary, because great, thank you for your opinion, but we don't have to dispute it because it's my word, because it's my project at the end of the day. And me feeling like, I don't want to make anyone feel like they're not being heard. So letting conversations drag on that, at the end of the day, I don't really need to drag on. So so I actually felt very disappointed recently because I wasn't able to get certain things done that I had anticipated with deadlines. But also changing in my mind how I'm viewing it, not like as something like, oh, just give this up, or this is going to be done when it's done, but rather like, okay, so now regroup with the things that I've learned. Now have new conversations, understanding that maybe I have to be a little bit more firm, review other options. Are there other people I can work with instead of this team if it comes down to that, and not abandoning my original idea, since it's something you gotta do.
Well, I love that because it keeps you in your power. It gives you options. You don't have to run away from stuff, but you can figure out kind of what's best for you. So you're searching other things at the same time. And I think that's the way it's supposed to be. It's not, I don't know if there's I think it depends on where you are at the time. I'm trying to learn guidance now, like to just listen to what the universe wants for me. And the more that I push, I'm not listening to what the universe wants for me. I'm looking at what my end goal is. And it's it's an interesting balance. Sometimes it's hard. Like, am I supposed to just sit around, be lazy, and not let people just not do different things, whatever? But then I'm like, well, but I'm learning. I'm learning about my guidance and learning about what things feel like and how I should move instead of forcing things. Because sometimes when I'm forcing things, I'm not supposed to go in that direction. I'm supposed to go in another direction, or I'm supposed to pivot in some way. And that's the hardest part. I understand it intellectually. It's about applying it when it's needed. So
Yo, what you're saying is like high level spiritual community talk. It is because you're basically talking about connecting with the higher self and really hearing and listening to your intuition. But truly, a lot of people don't understand it because our culture feels like, or society makes it seem like if we're not being active, then we're being, like stagnant, lazy, right? And so we don't realize that being busy is distracting, right? Having distractions really pulls us away from higher self and being in tune and being able to understand whether I'm thinking or receiving message. Am I creating idea or thought, or am I receiving thought? That's a difference. That's when the universe is talking to us, the receiving, and that's what you're mentioning. And many times when I receive, I have to not only meditate and pray and cry and nap, I have to do that consecutively. Constant. Then I gotta like make sense of what I'm receiving, the thoughts, the energy, and I have to decipher it. Is this mine from ego, from fear, from past experiences, from triggering, or is this being received to me? Am I feeling my emotions? Are my emotions telling me this is not for you? You know what I mean? Like, for instance, in one of my situations in work, the nonprofit stuff, I have been working my tail off at this garden. Some things have occurred with the person that I was agreed that I joined their board as a director, and I had some agreements with them about things. This person out of paranoia created a whole entire situation that was non-existent, and everything in my body is like attack, defend, go, you got to get that, the community deserves it. And then there's a part of me that's like, listen here, it may not be, this may be happening because there's levels that when we are distracted by our emotions, we can't get to these levels to oversee it, like bird's eye view, like higher self view. Like, this is not rejection, this is protection. whether you realize it or not. You may not be able to see it right now, but because we're into, not hearing ourselves or knowing that voice of universal intuition or whatever, we will react off of emotions. And we all know our emotions are they're temporary. They change with circumstance. So I understand what you're saying. And then it's so important. And that goes with any relationship. I know we've been really talking about like, we it went from slew of bad relationships to like all types of connections, but it's important.
I want it to be all relationships because, I know we mostly think about romantic relationships because that's, the closest one, but family, work, it's just all our relationships. If you have a bad relationship with somebody you work with and you're spending time there every single day, it's going to be just as impactful as if you're at home with a spouse that there's problems. So I don't, it depends on what relationship it is, but this is like all relationships. So if you're feeling like you have a slew of bad relationships, just romantic, maybe just romantic, or maybe just family, just business, I don't know. So
yeah, when I thought of this topic, I wasn't even thinking about it just with relationships, because romantic ones, I was thinking in general, because they can be just as taxing, if not worse. And then I was going to say something I noticed for me when I even noticed it this morning when I'm receiving guidance versus when I'm thinking about something. So I was going to write down what I needed to do. And some of the things that I was thinking about I need to tackle today was giving me a little anxiety. But when I was meditating, the things that just came to me easily, even after I finished and I'm jotting them down, when I try to throw in some of the stuff that I was thinking about, I again started to feel the same anxiety. And I felt none of that regarding the things that came to me when I was in meditation. So I guess just being even more interested in how you feel will give you a lot of leverage in deciding what to do next.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about it, and it's really true. Like, it really, really, really matters on how you are with yourself. And if you're aware, self-awareness is such a key. It's such a key. I remember back in 2012, right? 2011, 2012, anywhere between 2010 and 2012, I had a manager, right? And I was like, big on self-awareness at this point. I was telling him, I was like, I don't know, I've always been very self-aware. I've always had this amount of self-awareness and whatever. And I would constantly tell him about this self-awareness. And I remember him being like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this because I was like, I was very spiritual still then. And I was telling him about like how I thought God was so amazing and how God had gave me the gift of self-awareness, and I had the ability to see things that weren't shown and hear things that weren't said. And I would constantly talk about my self-awareness in the relationship. And this manager had an agenda. This manager really liked me and wanted to create me to be reliant on them. And they were like really big on trying to get me to be whatever they wanted me to be. Long story short, because of my self-awareness, I knew that this was an unhealthy connection. Although I wanted to be famous, although I was in the music industry and I was like, oh, I really want this to work and I really want them to invest in me, and they were paying for everything. They even started paying my bills. Like, you need to worry about nothing. You just need to create. And I love that. I was like, yeah. But his treatment started to become horrible. There was a point where he had called me. He was like, you think you cute? He was like, you're not cute. You need to go get your face done. You need to get surgery. You need to get some tits and a butt and Yo, he was like, you ain't that cute. You ain't that fly. Like, yo, he started to tear me up. He was trying to tear me up and break me down and make me seem like I wasn't who I was without him. And I had just dealt with him like a short wind of time. So I was just like, what are you talking? I was like, but immediately my self-awareness let me know this is not a connection for me. So I got to let it go. And
Absolutely.
I did. Yeah, no. I let that go mad quick. And I remember, because still to this, and this is why people can't forget me, because I'm not going to allow it. I'm not going to allow it. I'm going to fight you down for it. I'm big on that.
I have a light version of what Janessa was saying, but
that was the end of our episode, my joyful friends. Catch part 2 next week. And also, if you like the episode, leave a comment, click like, subscribe. This way you'll be notified the next time we have an episode that's published. Also, if you have any kind of relationship questions, you can find us on Instagram and you can DM us your questions. You can also send in a video question. If you wanted to be a guest on our show and ask questions, you can do that as well. We'd love to do whatever we can to answer your challenging questions. I will see you next week. Thank you.